We have opened up our store where now you can get some of our previous limited edition shirts over at our bonfire page by going to this link or clicking the link in the description. We've got our Saul shirt, Lloyd approved, and more. Plus, now for the first time, you can get these great designs by Sean Millington on these cool mugs, too. Check them out over on Bonfire.
Folks, no time for any tomfoolery or anything like that. I'm just happy that I started on time. I didn't really even prep anything right now. I was like, it's 7 o'clock. I'll go ahead and just jump in front of the camera. Just so I can have it. I didn't even have time to get a thing of water. I'm lying. I've got my tiny little like pre-review notes right here that thank God are on a napkin, because I did just spit all over the microphone. It's a very professional setup that I got right here. I got my notes here. Talk about this, review this movie. And I had a little cough drop right beforehand, too. So since it also does serve as a paper towel, there, I just stuck that on there. I'll finish that off when the live stream is over. So this is it's the second one that we've done this week, and this is a big one too. This is Evil Dead Rise, Beau Is Afraid from writer-director Ari Aster, and most importantly, here's the reason why you're here. It's the reason Jerrid is in there right now in the chat, so say hi to him. Jerrid and I have a midnight screenings review of the 1990 Lucio Fulci film Demonia. So that's 3 reviews. I'll say that one of them's okay. One of them kind of middle of the road, and then there is one that's terrible. It's up to you to figure out which one is which, and typically it's not very hard to figure out well, maybe the 2 better ones might be hard to figure out which one is which. The terrible one, you might be able to figure that one out. So if you did miss the one that we did, the episode that we did earlier in the week, I see a lot of movies in the theater. I can't even really remember what I reviewed last time. What? I joke, but what did I review on the last episode? Nefarious. Okay. How could I forget Nefarious? The God's Not Dead horror movie, only if instead of a college campus, it was in a prison with a psychiatrist and a man on death row. Other than that, practically the same movie. That's right, I reviewed Nefarious last time. That was a good stream that we did last time. And of course, it's up there in the archives. And subscribe to that playlist too, and subscribe to our channel. Click the notification bell as well. That'll send you alerts for whenever we go live, whenever I post up a new video, all that good stuff. But you know how like there's those series where people will say, you could skip the first few episodes. Go right to one of the later ones. That's when it gets good. That's kind of the case with this. The first few episodes of this, the story time segments are good. But I was still working with not the best camera in the world. Last week we got the better camera set up right here. But even with that being said, There was still a mistake. Not as big as in the third episode I did, where I was reviewing The Pope's Exorcist, but showing clips of Beautiful Disaster. No, all it was on the previous episode, the image was flipped. And I didn't notice until I saw the comments afterwards. Now, the thing with playing the wrong clips from the week prior, that I definitely should have noticed. The image being flipped, usually that will be something that I'll notice. I just didn't this time because the logo on my shirt was kind of faint. And yeah, there's the boxes behind me, and I could see it. I've got my monitor right here, but you guys probably have a better view of that now than I do. So I just kind of didn't notice. And it's not the first time that's happened to us either. I remember when we were doing midnight screenings, and when we first started doing midnight screenings live, it was either when we first started doing it live or maybe there was like an update on the YouTube app or something like that. But it was doing that. It was like mirroring our image. So there was a lot of episodes where you couldn't turn that off. Like if you were live streaming like just from your phone, and you had it flipped to where you could see yourself on the screen, which is how we would do it on midnight screenings. Because here at least, I'm not. The phone's faced the other way, but I got the monitor right here. But in the car at midnight screenings, like, no, I needed to see us. But the image was flipped. So there was like quite a few episodes where I was making sure not to wear any like logos on my shirt or anything like that. I don't even know why that's a thing. I'm sure there's a reason for it, but it is kind of like, why? It's like motion smoothing. What? Why? Other than just like it's a puzzle to where you're trying to figure out how to fix it. And when we were doing the live streams for midnight screenings in the car, we basically had to wait for the app to fix itself, like for YouTube to do another update to where that wouldn't happen. So it does feel kind of weird to be doing this. I'm actually doing this in the daylight right now. We're doing this a little early than usual, though I might start doing it on Fridays at around this time, to be perfectly honest, because like I said, I don't want to do these at the same time that Joe Bob's The Last Drive-In is on. So there is that, where I'm doing this a little earlier today. Also, and perfect timing for the episode where I'm reviewing Beau Is Afraid. My mom is coming to visit, but her train doesn't come in for a couple of hours. So I've got an hour and 53 minutes here, people. Gotta do these quick. Thank God Jerrid and I didn't take terribly long to say what our opinion on Demonia is, especially since I had seen that movie before, so I kind of had it in my head. Maybe I'd forgotten some specifics. Some things I remembered. You'll see that in the review later on. So, yeah, we've got pillows here, blankets, all that. Again, like I said, best I review the movies now before my mom gets here, so I'm not sitting here talking about Evil Dead Rise while she's trying to sleep. Jared's in the chat right now. As she took a train, she's visiting her hometown right now. She didn't take a train from California. That's something that I would do. In fact, I did do that last November. I took the train ride back from Los Angeles to Chicago because I needed to do a lot of finalizing on the book, which I'll have some news about that coming up too. Not on this episode. I'll save that for the next time. I do have some good news coming out about the book that I wrote and kind of a ballpark of when that'll probably be released. There's not a release date yet or anything, but just kind of a ballpark of like whenabouts that it might be. I remember, speaking of watching horror movies with a relative sleeping, I remember I was young, and it was the first time I saw this movie, too. One of my aunts was visiting town in Springfield, and I was over at my mom's, and this is my Aunt Jenny. She was also staying over at my mom's. She was sleeping in the TV room. I went out to the video store that evening, and I rented Texas Chainsaw Massacre because I was young. I hadn't seen it before. This is my first time seeing the movie. And then I come back, and again, my Aunt Jenny, like, the TV room is there, but she's going to be sleeping on the couch. And she said, she goes, so what movie did you rent? And I go, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And she kind of laughs and goes like, wait, are you serious? Like, yeah, I haven't seen it. I rented Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What is... Does that sound like it's loud? Like it'll keep you awake? I'm sorry. She it didn't keep her up, honestly. I managed to. It didn't have the at least it. I was able to keep it at the best volume that you could keep Texas Chainsaw Massacre if someone's trying to sleep during it. At least it didn't have the logo at the beginning of it that like Driller Killer did, where it specifically says at the beginning of Driller Killer, this movie must be played loud, and you have to respect the opening logo at the beginning of the movie. So, a couple other things to promote here too. We do have our poll going on for the next Cinema Snob episode, and that poll goes until Monday morning, I believe that ends. The last live stream we did here was for a few days ago, and that's when we did the Tox box and picked out all the choices. But if you want to see what those choices are, I got them pulled up again right here, because again, patreon.com/thecinemasnob, that's where that poll is going on right now. And here are your choices. The 1987 slasher film Stage Fright, which is it's one of my favorite slasher movies of all time. It's a Michele Soavi flick. It's got David Brandon in it. It's got Giovanni Lombardo Radice. It's about a group of actors putting on a play, but, you know, there's a serial killer there who has an owl mask. And not only is he picking them off graphically one by one, but is also putting on a really stylish show near the end, too. There's the Gary Busey action film, Eye of the Tiger. All you gotta know is he is protecting a child from bikers. And yes, it might have something to do with the Survivor classic, Eye of the Tiger. There's the rom-com Bachelor in Paradise from 1961 with Bob Hope and Lana Turner, where Bob Hope plays a man in the movie who calls himself the world's foremost expert on love. Is that what he called himself in the movie? The trailer looked like there'd be a lot of material in it, because it's like Bob Hope. He's teaching all the women in the neighborhood how to be successful in their marriage, while he himself doesn't know how to do the dishes, the laundry, or shop. Everyone learns a little something in that movie. There's Cracker Jack 3. I'm guessing in name only. It doesn't have the character Jack Wild in it, but it's got Oliver Gruner, who is not even playing the character named Jack in the movie. And then there's the stock fifth choice, the go-to that we have, the dramedy Something Short of Paradise. So those are your choices right there. You can vote in that poll over on patreon.com/thecinemasnob, and still have a few days left on that. That ends Monday morning, I believe. So let me go ahead and get to the few super chats we have in here, and then we'll get to our first review of the evening, which will be for Evil Dead Rise. I did see that there are some super chats already. So, okay, this is from Matt Florent. How many edits did the Evil Dead review take? Oh, yeah, so I did. There is a Cinema Snob episode for the original Evil Dead. And, no, I could kind of gauge where I could cut some of the violent scenes off, which I could show, which I probably shouldn't, and just describe it. It didn't take any cuts or anything like that. The last thing that I did that has multiple cuts was Super Hornio Brothers, because there's one version, there's the edited version that's on YouTube that we put up a couple of weeks ago, and then there's the uncut version of it, which is over on our Uncensored channel, and that version's about 5 minutes longer, probably. It's got all of the Hornio material that you'd want in there that had to be cut out of the YouTube version. Let's see. Jay Donaldson says, make sure Jerrid doesn't go eyeing your mom's lemon drink again while she's in town. Oh, that's from... we used to have a show. It was called Brad and Jerrid. There were just little shorts, little dialogue shorts where Jerrid and I would be in situations like going down a giant slide or moving a couch, just like little shorts that we would do. There was one where we were reenacting The Room, and so we parodied The Happening at one point in it, because both of those movies were popular to make fun of at the time. That kind of gives you a time frame of when this series came out. Linus Anderson, at the end of your Galaxy Invader episode, you say, Track of the Moonbeast, I'll get to you next. It's been 15 years and I'm still waiting. That's a good... I should do that as like a long-going joke. Like, oh yeah, like I intended that. Like, it's 15 years. I was waiting 15 years for this. No, here's what happened. I had taken some notes on doing an episode of Track of the Moonbeast, and God, it was a Mystery Science Theater episode. Now that I don't know how that wouldn't make that much of a difference now. I don't think, because I've done some stuff on Mystery Science Theater, Pod People, and I did an episode on The Mask 3D recently was a Mystery Science Theater episode. So now, I mean, there's certain episodes that are so specific to Mystery Science Theater that I still wouldn't do. Like, I wouldn't do a snob on... I wouldn't do a snob on Manos, but I did do something on Manos. I was like, let me do something kind of different with it aside from riffing it. So I did a video called The 10 Awesome Things About Manos. And... did I do anything else like that with any other? I did Pod People because there was E.T. week on the Cinema Snob. So that maybe I should go ahead and do Track of the Moon Beast right now. Obviously, I'd have to watch the movie again. I haven't seen it in 15 years. So, okay. Now we can go ahead and get to some reviews. And I'll save Demonia for the end because clearly it's the 30-plus-year-old Fulci movie that you're here for. Let's go ahead and do... Let's go ahead and do Evil Dead Rise right now. Pull up my notes. Pull up my clips. It was weird. So... my whole timing today is thrown off. I'm streaming in the daylight right now. I saw Evil Dead Rise at like 1 in the afternoon. That felt weird. Because I had to work around... I mean, sure, my mom coming to town, but she's getting in late when I wouldn't even be at a movie at that time on Friday anyway. So it was more so that Beau Is Afraid is 3 hours long. So one, I have to work around Beau Is Afraid being 3 hours, and also Laura really wanting to see Beau Is Afraid as well. She went with me to that last night. And so it was kind of like, okay, working out those schedules. Okay, now I can see. So I only have time for one movie last night. Got to see Evil Dead this afternoon. If it was me picking, I'd probably have picked like I'll see Beau Is Afraid in the afternoon and Evil Dead Rise at night. Both of those things make sense because I was tired last night after Beau Is Afraid. So, okay, let me pull up some... All right, I got everything ready here. All right. So here's what Evil Dead Rise is, folks. It's some old school gory horror where one channel, say HBO, you'd have the original Evil Dead. Then on Showtime, maybe Demons 2, the Lamberto Bava flick, where the demons are now loose in an apartment building. But which do I watch? Well, flip it over to the movie channel where they're playing Evil Dead Rise. It's pretty much both of those movies. And you could already tell it's one of the dark Evil Dead films, like the first one or the 2013 one, which I'd say the 2013 one is the one that this is kind of the closest to in feel. It doesn't really address the events from those others, so it could serve as either a standalone sequel or a remake, really, because either of those scenarios makes sense, because it does do the remakeable tropes, like having equivalence, meaning like, okay, in the first one, you know, they're all sitting there eating, and then the Deadites do things to lure them to the book. In the first one, it's the cellar door opening. They go in to investigate. In this, it's an earthquake that happens. It opens up the ground into this vault that's where they find the book. There's a scene early on, and all of these kind of happen at about the same points in the movie that these equivalents do. Like, you have a scene in an elevator that's a little like the tree scene from the first one. Instead of them driving in the first film and the bridge is out, in this one it's the stairs that are blown out, so they're kind of stuck on this floor. There was the original scene where there's the pencil wound and then the wound starts spreading. That equivalent happens in this with a wound to the face. There's, of course, the classic scene where one is dragged into the cellar. They're locked in there, and then they're kind of screaming and pushing on their cellar door. This has equivalents to that, only it's one who's dragged outside in the hallway and is outside banging. There's a chainsaw. There's a shotgun. When stuff does start getting dark, one starts listening to more of the recording like Ash was doing, and in the same situations too, that's where they get into the term bodily dismemberment that it uses in both movies. And again, there's some of the same lines will pop up too. But what it does do well here is, sure, the gore and the ferociousness of it. It does give you a set of characters that mostly I liked, and I genuinely felt bad for when this horrific shit starts happening to them. And that really does get into the fact that the Deadites don't give a shit who you are. We've seen them go after college students before, sure, but here it's this family living in a high-rise, and they're being raised by a single mom, and the aunt found out she's pregnant. And it does make the situation feel pretty human and tragic. And it's because of that I probably like this better than the 2013 one, but I haven't seen that one in like 10 years, so I could maybe watch it now and be like, oh, okay, well, maybe I like the 2013 one better than this one. Like I said, it's just been a while since I've seen that. The last time I saw it was when I saw it in the theater. And they do work the cabin into this as well. And that's a pretty effective scene at the beat. You see a little bit of it in the trailer. And at the beginning, there is a whole sequence in a cabin. Then there's an eye-rolly moment where something big happens, and boom, one day earlier. Now, I'll say this. It does tie into... Cabin stuff does bookend it, so there wouldn't really be any other way to structure that other than doing it like a flashback. But with that being said, those bookended scenes, you could honestly cut that out of the movie and you wouldn't lose anything. It's just there because it's Evil Dead, so here's a cabin in one scene. And for all of its faults, it works where it needs to work. I did care about most of these people to the extent of I was rooting for them to survive. I cared about, like I said, 99% of them. There was like maybe one, not maybe, there was one where I was like, I hope you're not in this very much. But the cinematography is great. It's a claustrophobic film. The gore is excellent. It's worth a late night watch. Like, if you're going to see it in theaters, it'd probably be fun to go see late at night. I'll give it a B-, because, I mean, yeah, the original trilogy will always be the ones that I go back to. And that's the thing about this movie. It is kind of reminding you of that a lot. So while I'm sitting there thinking, this is fine, it's totally serviceable, other than the fact that it takes place in a high-rise, and even with that, I honestly like Demons 2 better. It's not like it's got enough of an identity about itself to where I would be like, oh, I'm in the mood for that one. No, it'll always be, I'm in the mood for the first one. I'm in the mood for Evil Dead 2. I'm in the mood for Army of Darkness. Or, I mean, like, it's been 10 years, so maybe I'd be like, I'm in the mood for the 2013 one. So maybe 10 years from now, I might be like, oh, sure, like, yeah, Evil Dead Rise. Let's go ahead and pop that in. It kind of reminds me a little of that recent Hellraiser movie they did, where it was like, I'm not disliking this. It's fine. It's got all the ingredients in there for it to be serviceable without me really loving it or thinking it's great, really. So when I was watching it, I was thinking of something more in the B category, yeah, but more specifically like a B. It really wasn't until I sat down here that I was like, maybe a B-, because it does hit a lot of those remake-able tropes where I was kind of sitting there constantly being like, oh, that's like that, that's like that, that's like that, that's like this story point, that one, that one, that one. And it's not even that it was doing bad, but it was just noticeable, really. So I'm kind of going back and forth on a B or a B-, but B- in that, like, if you wait for streaming on this, you would probably be fine. Or, you know, you go see like a cheap showing at the theater late at night. It'll work for that too. Let's see what the I wonder how many people in the poll voted as I was reviewing it. Let me click end poll on that. All right, so the poll is ended for Evil Dead Rise, and as you can see right there, 60% of you said a B. It was it was up there pretty high earlier. Not that it was an A, but it was like 80% guessed B. So yeah, like perfect. That's a good guess on something like that I would give it something in the B category. So okay, let me see if got any more super chats. If I don't have any more super chats in here, we can go ahead and get into Beau Is Afraid. Okay, no more. No more. No super chats in here yet. Okay, well, I don't have to stutter and waste any time right there. We can go ahead and get right into Beau Is Afraid. Let me get my notes up. My clips all posted here. Okay, there we go. Hang on, I don't want to show clips of Beau Is Afraid, but then be talking about Evil Dead Rise again. Well, then I would be like, maybe I should check myself into the hospital. Okay, now this is the new movie from Ari Aster. Beau Is Afraid is one where a man finds out his mother has died the old-fashioned way by a chandelier falling on her head, and then he must go to her funeral, where one thing leads to another, and there may be dead bodies, naked serial killers, and hallucinations. There's things that this movie does great, which is being a film about an extremely anxious man where you're really seeing the world through his anxiety. He's afraid to go outside due to not just rampant violence in the streets, but all of them wanting him dead or trying to get inside. It was like an A24 movie set in Tromaville. This is a world where he's terrified everything will go wrong because it always does. His keys get stolen. Neighbors are out to get him. Even people's voicemail greetings are passive aggressive. Like, leave me a message if you ever want to speak to me again. And when he's taken in by a nice couple, you're always wondering if there's an ulterior motive, or the man standing outside looking at him, if that guy's going to attack at any moment. Like, your paranoia is up too, along with his. Like, you're wondering, early on, you'll be kind of wondering if stuff is actually happening, or if there's fragments that are real. But his paranoia is elevating these situations, and that kind of gets more and more obvious as the movie goes along. Like, the answer to that it does get more and more clear, like the longer the movie goes on. And it's in these parts where the movie worked the best, where you feel like you're living inside this man's head. And it is intense, but also extremely funny, with some very good lines and excellent use of dark and relatable humor in some sequences. Like that stuff I was really digging. Then somewhere around the halfway point, where he goes in the woods and sees a play, around there I was like, okay, this sequence is going on a while. Okay, now it's like I'm watching a man give us a version of his life in a video art museum. Now it's like I'm listening to a book on tape. There are whole sequences where it's not like they don't mean anything, but the same movie could exist if they weren't there, or at least cut in half. It'd get repetitive. There's a big reveal near the end, and there's fantastic acting there, but it is repetitive. You'll get to the point where, you'll get the point, but it'll go on and repeat itself many times. When a penis monster comes into it, that's when it was like, okay, now it's stereotypically like a film where the director has a lot of clout, has a ton of money, and is able to do what he wants as long as he wants, and this is what you get, which I'm honestly all for. Like, regardless of what I think about the final products, I love going to see, like, movies like this where a director has a lot of hits and like he's off a leash on this one. That already has my curiosity up quite a bit. This movie, though, there was so much I was loving, and then it just felt like Lars von Trier took over in the last act and it needed another pass in the editing room. It's a mixed bag. So overall, it was the last half of it was kind of a slog at moments, but the first half had some great stuff in it. But both of those things are long because the movie's 3 hours. So collectively, as a whole, it was more of a C+ for me, but I could still see people from beginning to end giving it an A, and I could see Jerrid giving it an F. Jerrid, if you're still there, if you're still in the chat right now, you would not like this movie. I was tired by the end of the film, but I don't want to, like, I saw it pretty late, so I don't want to, like, take points off of that. And as far as mother issue movies go, because this movie is definitely that hardcore. I mean, not hardcore like taboo hardcore, but hardcore. Like, there's so many other movies like that I like better than this. Like, I'd rather watch Psycho 4, The Beginning, or Bates Motel, or Mommy Dearest, or Don't Go in the House, or something like that, you know? I am curious what the feedback on this will be, because it's not like I disliked it or anything. I'm not even... if it sounds like something you'd want to see out of curiosity or that you might love it, go check it out. I'm saying for me personally, I probably would have been fine watching it at home, which is kind of where the C+ comes from. And I really wish it was just... that I was consistently loving it like I did the first half, because there was a lot of funny stuff there and so much cleverness in that first 90 minutes. Damn, I wish there was... then it could have been one of my favorite movies of the year. So, okay, it doesn't look like any more super chats right now. But, so yeah, if you're watching, we do the super chats in between the reviews. You do the super chat, ask a question, leave a comment, anything like that. That's always fun to do. So, speaking of Jerrid, let's go ahead and get to our Midnight Screenings review right now. So, Midnight Screenings, this is our Patreon requested show. You make your requests over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/thecinemasnob. If you're a top-tier contributor on there, then you request something for me and Jerrid to watch and review. And in the description for this episode... Ooh, got some... fighting some hiccups right now. Some burps. Hang on, it's a good thing I'll be cutting to something here in a little bit. Ooh, all right. So anyway, I'll put a link in the description of this video. That'll take you to the blog post where in the comments you'll write down your request for me and Jerrid. So okay, let's go ahead and get to me and Jerrid talking about the 1990 Lucio Fulci nunsploitation movie Demonia, and we'll be right back after that. It's not getting too hot outside.
Not yet.
Yeah,
right.
We're getting close to how it was last time. We're in the spring right now. If any of you watched the episodes last summer when we did midnight screenings, it was a test to see how quickly we could review the movie before dying. And it's a little hot out there, but we also just reviewed Rock Dog a little bit before this, but we are still able to review things with the windows up.
Right.
And we watched the second movie in between, so we weren't sweating hard enough for me to go back inside and for Laura to be like, ew, you stink, get in the shower. No, it's not shower season yet. When summer rolls around, that's when I break out the shower mat and the towels and the soaps and everything, whatever.
So you just don't shower until summer.
Well, there's no need to.
Right. Okay.
I'm not in a car reviewing movies and sweating. Why else would I shower? That's just a waste of water. I don't have any hair anymore to wash.
True.
Whenever I shave it just goes right in the sink. So this is for Rory Gallagher, who requested a Lucio Fulci movie. That's cool. Too bad it's Demonia, but all right, sure, why not? Now, I had seen this movie before. I have. So before we started it, I said to you, like, I've actually seen this movie before, and it's not very good.
Right.
But, I didn't know. It's probably been 20 years since I've seen it. Mm-hmm. So I'd be like, well, maybe it'll be easier to get through now, or maybe that I know what I'm getting into. Maybe that'll make it easier to get through. Maybe I'll like it better now. This is actually worse when I watched it the second time earlier. Yeah, dude. Okay, so I'm a huge Lucio Fulci fan.
Yeah.
Like, I used to collect his movies back when I collected movies. I would go out and I would seek out Lucio Fulci movies to buy. Like, I had a ton from Anchor Bay, a ton from Shriek Show, and I've got some of the collectible big boxes in there as well. You can see some of them in the background of some videos. We did a Fulci month on the Cinema Snob, and so when this first came out on DVD, I think it was Shriek Show who put it out, like in the early 2000s. Like, yeah, I bought it. Like, I'd watched, certainly had seen a bunch beforehand. There'd be some that I liked better than others in terms of Fulci's movies, but this one is memorable to me in regards to being the first one of his that I saw that I outright didn't like. Well, the first time I saw it, and I remember it being pretty quick into the movie to where I was like, this isn't working. I'm like, something is just off here. Right. And I'm in good company because Lucio Fulci doesn't like this movie either. Really? Like, yeah, I think he might have tried. Didn't. Yeah, he passed away a long time ago, but he didn't like this movie either. I think at one point he even wanted to take his name off of it. Really? Yeah, I mean, the movie, there are some parts where you can, if you know it's Lucio Fulci going into it, that you can kind of tell, like close-ups on eyes and certain reaction shots, and even the way that some of the gore is. But Fulci, when he talks about this, he talks about the cinematography being a lot different in this. And it is. It looks way more like a Bruno Mattei movie. It looks more like it would be not Zombie, but one of the, like, in name only sequels that they did. And the dude who shot the movie did shoot After Death, which here is called Zombie 4. And he did shoot some Bruno Mattei movies. I think he did Caligula and Messalina. I think he did Violence in a Women's Prison. Oh, that's cool. And it does look more like something you'd expect out of a Mattei flick, which could be fine. I love Bruno Mattei. His movies are, when they work, they're very, very, very entertaining. You remember the show we used to have, the Bruno Mattei show. The Bruno Mattei show. So we would talk about a lot of his movies there. So this movie, even though it doesn't really look like a Fulci movie, it could still work if it was entertaining enough. Yeah. But it's a bore. It really is. I can write down just the things in it that are funny, and I could count on one hand. Like, it's funny when the ghost of a naked woman pops up and shoots Al Cliver with a harpoon gun. Right. It's funny when the two drunk guys stumble in the catacombs but accidentally walked into the set of Mortal Kombat and fell off the platform and landed on a bed of spikes. And you had so checked out that when I laughed at that part, you're like, what'd I miss? I'm like, you missed the drunk guy. I was actually falling asleep because there was just a whole lot of nothing going on, just walking around and just talking about nothing, and then suddenly two drunk guys. And I like the dubbing in that, because one guy is like Irish, or is speaking with an Irish accent. The other guy says something like, "All right, enough of that fake Irish accent," or something. And I'm thinking in my head, like, is that actually what or is that the dub actors, like, kind of improvising a little bit here? Probably. I know. I'm like, that was kind of funny. Yeah. There is the part where the woman is killed by her cats. Yes. And I mean, you could tell they're like fake cats on her and ripping her eyes out. Even that, Lucio Fulci did the black cat, so even that kind of thing, I've seen him do better in other things. That was kind of funny, but it's things like that don't really factor into anything. They are things that are just happening. Like, and I know a lot of movies like this are probably built around the death scenes. Yeah. Some are just better at it than other movies. This is one where it's like, you can feel it, where it's like, we have some ideas here. We have an idea for a guy in a meat locker gets attacked by meat hooks, and then they put a spike through his tongue. Right. Or the baby on the fire that's clearly a doll. And also the guy ripped in half by the trees. Yeah. They are all things that just happen. They don't factor that much into...
The guy that got ripped apart, though, it was funny because the makeup effects were just so bad. Like, you could see the pouch on his chest, like, rip open and whatnot. It was just like you could actually see the seam up here, like his skin and the pouch, and it was just like.
And I feel like I've also seen that scene. I feel like they've done that death scene more than once in one of these movies. I can't remember which other one, because it's been a while since I've seen a lot of these. But that was one of the things, like I said to you, like before that happened in the movie, some of this movie was coming back to me. It's like, oh, right, I remember what happens next. The thing with the tree. I did, even before we sat down and watched it, I did remember the two drunk guys. Like, I remember those. That was, like, about all I remembered of this. And that Lucio Fulci shows up and plays a cop in a couple of scenes. Like,
which
I
that didn't even make
those.
That didn't make much sense. Like, was this supposed to be a horror flick, or was this supposed to be a mystery whodunit?
A giallo?
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Like, Fulci's movies, even some of his best ones, like, you are sucked in by the atmosphere, by the effects, the cinematography, just the overall mood that he creates. It helps you go along with it.
Yeah.
Like, even though there's a lot of them where if you kind of stop and think about the plot, there might not be some things that make sense, or they're not even really trying to make that much sense. He's just very good at taking you along for the ride.
Right.
With a lot of characters, like very good cinematography that does make a lot of it scary. Dario Argento is certainly great at that too. In this, it doesn't help that, one, a lot of this probably already wouldn't have made that much sense to begin with, but this is one where they had their budget, I think, drastically cut during the making of it.
Really?
So I think there's a lot of scenes that couldn't get shot or couldn't be completed, or maybe a lot of stuff that's condensed. So because of that really makes this have like no flow to it whatsoever.
Right. Yeah.
It is just, sometimes there's this history with the nuns.
Right.
Sometimes the cop is investigating stuff.
Right.
We need something graphic to happen here. Guy gets cut in half. And then his kid, who looks kind of like Bob from House by the Cemetery but isn't, then this kid shows up later and is covered in blood, which I don't know what that means.
Right, like there was yeah, like there was no reason for him to be. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
But I was going to say there was no reason for him to be covered in blood
unless he jumped inside of his father.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Like, and there are Fulci movies where he could just get away with that better because they'd be creepier,
right?
Or just significantly better shot than this movie is. And also in those other movies, I'm sure they could shoot the entire movie.
Yeah.
Because like I've seen ones before where like you can kind of see, you know, like the tarantula scene in The Beyond, where you can tell which tarantulas are real, which ones aren't. There's a part in House by the Cemetery where a woman gets stabbed in the back, and it's like the blade curves inside of her head and comes out this way. But he still makes it work. He's a master at that.
Yeah.
This doesn't really have any of that, so it's much easier to pick apart some of the flaws with some of the more graphic scenes in the film.
Yeah.
The movie is on Tubi because of course it is. Actually,
I will say, at the risk of sounding like a pervert, it was right around the orgy scene that things actually got interesting. Not because of the orgy, but right afterwards. I think that was about whenever they gave birth to the kid and then burned the kid, and it was like right around that time, or right around that time in the movie.
Exposition dump. Yeah. Like, it is, although, very standard nunsploitation stuff.
Sure.
Like, and there's some that are fine. Overall, nunsploitation was never one of my favorite subgenres. Like I said, there's a couple that I thought were good, but
there are a lot that honestly are kind of boring because they do rely on the shock of just, oh, this nun is having sex or is like beating someone or torturing someone. You know, they kind of get a little tedious after a while. And this, yeah, there's the thing with the like quote orgy, like.
No, yeah.
Like they call it an orgy in
That's
it, but
true.
not really. Like, yeah, there's that, and there's like some scenes of nuns doing weird shit. But it's all things I've seen in other nunsploitation movies, and also done more graphically than this.
Right, and I guess my point in bringing it up is that like this movie had so much of nothing going on that it was just refreshing to see something. See something going on.
Yeah, certainly. I won't go like the full F. When I think I'm gonna give it a D and not a D minus, it's because I'm thinking of like, well, you know, maybe this death was kind of cool, or maybe that death was kind of funny. But even that, it is a lot of things that I've seen better in other movies like this, even with some of the same actors, like I said, Al Cliver in this getting harpooned.
Right.
So there's really no reason to watch this. It's boring. It's really, really boring. And God help you if this is your introduction to a Lucio Fulci film, like
which it pretty much is.
You've seen some, haven't you?
Maybe like after a drunk night at the bar, we'd go back to your place and like you'd pop in an exploitation film and then we'd like fall asleep.
Yeah,
we'd pass out.
Did that with one of his, so I'll give it a D minus.
D minus.
Yeah,
that's actually what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking, because historically we've only really given Fs to movies that are just like totally unwatchable, and I guess this isn't totally unwatchable. Like I said, just, you know, I think this is the kind of movie that you throw on after a night of drinking and everything, and you just, you know,
if you want to pass out to it, sure.
Yeah.
Like it'll help with that. But thank you so much, Rory, for the.
Oh, did we mention that before?
Yeah, I mentioned
it. Okay, Rory. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rory, for the request. And where can we find you at?
Everywhere. Here on YouTube /Jerrid Foils, Twitch /Jerrid Foils, Facebook /Jerrid Foils.
See you next time.
God bless Tubi TV indeed. I didn't even need to look and see where that was streaming. Just like, Jerrid, don't even bother looking on Disney Plus. It's gonna be on Tubi TV. Okay, we'll do some super chat questions in here. Thanks a bunch for watching, everyone. We'll do some super chats here, and then we'll get on out of here. Well, this is kind of an early one. Had less reviews to do this time. Or maybe just less things to say about them. That was a pretty short midnight screening. It's like 14 minutes long. Okay, this is from Critical Moment. Says, long-time listener, love you, Brad. Well, I love you too. Thank you so much for the super chat. That means a lot. Thank you for supporting us all these years too. This is from my friend Kermit Wazowski says, thank you for my artwork in the background. Much appreciated. You may not know this, but Marissa did in fact do the box cover for The Night That God Screamed. Actually, no, the Lloyd and Chloe painting right there, which we talked about a bit last week, or not last week, but on the last episode that we did a few days ago, where I told some good Lloyd and Chloe story. So again, thank you so much for the artwork. I'm glad I could get those displayed back there. Gregory Ramirez, thank you so much. And he says, you're my go-to for theater reviews. I like that it specifically says theater reviews. Like, it would be, you're my go-to on theater reviews, but streaming reviews, I have some choices I want to check with before I get to you. No, thank you so much. That means a lot. All right, so I'll go ahead and get on out of here. If any of you want to make a midnight screenings request for me and Jerrid, just click on, there'll be a link in the description for this video, which will take you to the blog post over on Patreon, where if you're a top tier contributor over on Patreon, that's where you get to make requests. And we got a poll going on there now, and you don't even need to be a top-tier contributor for that. Just any kind of contributor over at patreon.com/thecinemasnob. The poll for the next Cinema Snob episode, which we got The Burning coming up on Monday, but the Monday after that, that's what this the episode will be for the winner that we got here, and it'll be either Stage Fright. You can choose between Stage Fright, Eye of the Tiger with Gary Busey, the Bob Hope movie Bachelor in Paradise, the action film Crackerjack 3, and the stock choice Something Short of Paradise. You got all of those right there. Right now, one of them is definitely winning. But who knows? Something could catch up. For a couple of days last week, Revenge of the Ninja was leading, and then The Burning caught up to it. That could happen here with this one, but there is definitely one that's in the lead right now. So, okay. Oh, and I also do AMAs every week. I do comment AMAs every week on Patreon as well. So, thank you so much for watching, everyone. We're gonna go ahead and get on out of here. Follow us on Twitter at The Cinema Snob. Subscribe to our YouTube channel today. Click the notification bell so you get the alerts for when we go live, put up new videos, and leave us a comment on this video too. Leave us a comment letting you know what you thought of all the movies that we reviewed. Thank you so much. And now, well, it's my favorite part. Now we got the outro screen with the King Frat music playing. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Everybody come join the party.